The night was buzzing with music and laughter, but I felt completely detached. My wife, Emily, had been pushing me away for weeks, brushing off my attempts to connect, laughing off my subtle hints, and making excuses whenever I tried to engage. She wasn't mean or cruel, at least not openly, but the distance was palpable, and it hurt more than words could express. Tonight at the annual gala, she arrived radiant as ever, expecting attention, expecting charm, expecting me to chase her like I always had. But I was done. I had spent too many weeks bending over backwards, smiling through the hurt, pretending her small rejections didn't cut deep. I decided that this evening would be different. For the first time in years, I would act for myself, not to appease her. As the opening notes of the first dance echoed through the hall, she approached me, hand extended and eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Come on, dance with me," she said with that playful smile I used to adore. Normally, I would have grinned, taken her hand, and danced as if nothing else mattered in the world. But tonight, I didn't smile. I looked at her calm but resolute, and shook my head. "Not tonight," I said softly. Her smile faltered and I saw a flicker of confusion cross her face. She had expected compliance, routine, predictability, but instead she was met with resistance, and for the first time she didn't know how I would respond. Her eyebrows knitted together, a small flush rising on her cheeks as she tried to mask her surprise. "What do you mean not tonight?" she asked, voice wavering between curiosity and irritation. I remained silent, letting the words linger in the air. The music continued, couples swaying around us. But in that moment, the world seemed to shrink. Every eye in the room started to notice the tension. Guests who didn't know us personally leaned in, sensing the unusual disconnect. She tried again, a hint of coaxing in her tone. "Come on, you always dance with me." I shook my head again, my decision unyielding. Emily's hands dropped to her sides and a shadow passed over her face. She searched for humor, for charm, for some way to coax me back into the rhythm I had always followed. But I had stepped outside the pattern and she realized it. Her confusion quickly transformed into frustration. "You're being ridiculous," she whispered, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. I stayed calm, neutral, unflinching. I didn't need to explain myself, argue, or justify my feelings. Her previous attempts to push me away, to dismiss my emotions, had led us to this moment. And now I was done playing along. Guests around us began to notice. Murmurs spread softly through the crowd. Curious glances toward our corner of the dance floor. Emily's face went pale as she realized everyone could see the shift. She had always counted on my compliance, my eagerness to please, my tendency to smooth over her behavior for the sake of appearances. But tonight, there was no smoothing, no bending, no hiding. I stood there calmly, holding my drink, watching her anxiety rise as the music continued without us. The weight of the silence pressed heavily, and for the first time, she felt the consequences of pushing me away publicly. "You're serious?" she asked, voice trembling now. I nodded gently, not a hint of anger or aggression, only quiet firmness. Her panic grew, and I could almost see the calculations in her mind. How could I refuse? What would people think? Did she finally reach her breaking point? Her eyes darted to friends, to strangers, to familiar faces who were now silently watching our interaction. The energy of the event shifted. It wasn't just about a dance anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, and the realization that I was no longer willing to ignore my own feelings. She took a hesitant step back, her fingers nervously touching the edge of her dress. "I didn't mean to," she started, voice faltering, but there was no forgiveness, no quick recovery, no shrugging it off. Her attempts to charm, joke, or manipulate me into joining her on the dance floor fell flat. I remained composed, my eyes steady, my posture unwavering. In that moment, she understood fully. Her actions over the past weeks had consequences. The playful game she thought she could get away with had reached their limit, and I had reached mine. Emily's panic became palpable. She opened her mouth to speak again, but paused, realizing her words couldn't undo what was happening. Around us, the crowd had grown quiet, sensing the tension. Friends who knew our relationship exchanged glances. Strangers sensed the drama. Her face had gone a noticeable shade paler, and I knew she understood one undeniable truth. I was done. Not angry, Not vindictive, just done. Her ability to push me, to dismiss my feelings, to assume I would always comply had ended. The power dynamic had shifted in an instant. The music slowed. Couples changed positions. Yet, we remained where we were. I sipped my drink slowly, deliberately, keeping my calm intact. She fidgeted, glancing around nervously, desperately searching for a way to reclaim the evening, to reclaim the control she had lost. But control was no longer hers. Every failed attempt to pull me into her orbit reminded her of the weeks she had spent distancing herself, ignoring subtle hints, brushing aside conversations. Now, with all eyes subtly observing, she finally felt the weight of her own choices. Finally, she swallowed hard and whispered almost inaudibly, "I guess you're serious." I gave a small nod, gentle but firm, signaling that nothing would change my decision. The look on her face was unforgettable. Shock, fear, regret, and the dawning realization that I had boundaries she could not cross. The room, once filled with music and laughter, now held a quiet intensity around us. Everyone sensed the shift. Emily's attempts to manipulate, charm, and evade had failed.